Wonderful people of Clown World. Hope you are doing fantastically well. Back today with another review video. This one caught my attention because she talks about the chakra system and how they plonk her back into her body via the chakras. As you guys will know from the content on my channel, the chakras are basically an etheric implant, one of many. One of their main weapons that these entities use to lock into our energy field, siphon off your energy, and loop negative thoughts 24/7 a day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Also, the chakras compartmentalize essence energy. Why would an intelligent creator compartmentalize the flow of energy in the way that the chakras do? Doesn't make any sense logically. And the fact that it's a chakra system, I mean, it's a system. It's telling you it's AI, and of course, a lot of people get butthurt, and New Agers and those kind of people get very defensive and start attacking because they're very attached to the whole idea of the chakras and the lotus flowers and rainbow colors. All this stuff that's associated with them because they've made them look so beautiful and innocent. It's just exactly what they would do, make one of the most evil implants look the look the most fluffy and light. But anyway, I digress. But this one was interesting because she talks about being put back in her body via the chakras. The chakras are an implant that gets implanted at birth, basically. And so, yeah, this lady gets plonked back in via that system, and we're going to find out a little bit about what happens here. So without further ado, oh guys, don't forget to hit the like, comment, subscribe if you're new here. Let's get straight into it and see what she has to say. It's a relatively short video.
And on November 4th of 2018. So before I had this near-death experience, my life felt like it was falling apart. I was going through a hard time financially. I had lost my job. I felt like I was facing like a dead end everywhere I turned. I was having a lot of negative thoughts. And
welcome to the earthly realm. I wonder what lessons you were supposed to learn. I mean, she's got it pretty easy compared to some people. Some people that are rummaging through bins and stuff like that, and people that are being bombed. I mean, kind of like first world problems.
And I was feeling like I was in the lowest place of my life. And so leading up to November 4th, I have asthma, and I've had asthma since I was a child because I got double pneumonia when I was a newborn, and I also almost died from that experience.
There's so much trauma around birth. I've spoken about it quite a lot recently. Just the way the birthing process happens, like being stuck in the birth canal for hours and hours, and then whisked off to an incubator where you're separated from your mom, and as soon as you get out, you got people with masks poking different tools at your face. There's so much trauma around birth. We don't even think about it, but it is there.
I guess I've just had more weak lungs, and if I get sick, I normally get asthma. And so I had gotten very sick. It was kind of a mystery illness. The sickness that I had was a cold, but it was extreme heaviness on my chest. I didn't feel like I could breathe or catch my breath, and it was getting worse and worse and worse, and I was having a severe asthma flare-up. So I was going to see lung specialists. I was going to the emergency room and getting oxygen, and I ended up getting pumped up with steroids. I think I was on 60 milligrams.
See, that's what I hate about, ending up in a hospital. I swear it's one of my worst nightmares, that just the fact that when you're out of it like that, they can just like pump anything into you. And who knows what effect that has on your consciousness when you pass over, like all the morphine and stuff like that. I mean, does that affect your clarity when you pass over? It wouldn't surprise me if they did something like that. You know how evil they are, to kind of like haze your consciousness so you're kind of out of it when you pass over. Hopefully that's not the case, but it's definitely a concern. I hope I never end up in a hospital. So I'll just go over there in the jungle near here and, and die peacefully in the jungle.
Grams of steroids, and I ended up going in and out of the hospital, and I was home with my own breathing machine, and I truly felt like this was the end. I didn't know how I was going to get out of this experience and out of this asthma flare up, because I have never experienced anything so severe in my life, and I couldn't walk, I couldn't talk, I was in bed for weeks and weeks and weeks. And
so again, look how cruel it is. I mean, we gloss over these things, but you know, people go through like this process that can last weeks and months and years sometimes. I mean, talk about drag it out for Loosh. Because I actually think that they've made the human body quite difficult to kill, actually, because the go-to for the human body is to survive. Um, and it's like it all gets drawn out. You know what I mean? I think the best way is to go like quick.
It was one night when I was not even sleeping. I was up all night trying to very much focus on my breath and very much try to take deep breaths so that I could feel that I could breathe. And granted, I had a breathing machine and everything like that, but it just wasn't working. And so I was alone that night, and I was in my room, and it was probably around 1:30 in the morning, and all of a sudden I got to a point where my whole chest felt like it was just closing in on me, and I was gasping for air, and I get a little emotional thinking about it. So
Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, completely traumatic.
I was praying like I have never prayed before to my grandmother in spirit, and my grandmother and I were very.
I mean, this is a sad thing, you know, like not just her, but so many people are so desperate and, you know, they lean into those kind of things that, you know, I mean, I know at that time she's feeling like she's going to die, so I completely understand it, you know, but we know it's ineffective, basically.
Close when she was alive, and I was praying for her, and all of a sudden a white silhouette, kind of like a hazy energy, came through the doors of my bedroom. It was my grandmother, and
I was going to say, I bet it's Granny, right?
she came over to me in my bed, and she energetically laid her hands over my forehead and then laid her hands on my chest. And I felt that she was breathing into me and for me. I kind of.
So no doubt this is some kind of entity that's masquerading as her grandma. Again, I know it's triggering if you're, you know, this is the first video you're watching of my content, that's going to trigger you because you want to think that Granny's going to be there, Archangel Michael's going to be there, you know, whatever's going to be there. But these entities can shapeshift into, you know, whatever form that they need to shapeshift into in order to, yeah, bend you in and shoehorn you into the direction they want you to shoehorn you into. So, and we know that these entities, some of them can induce healings. I've spoken a lot about, you know, John of God, who was healing people, but then he ended up being like a child trafficker. So there's always the rug pull, the dump in the punch bowl, or the takeaway, even if it on the surface looks pretty good. And we're probably going to find that out as this story goes.
Have started to just feeling relieved at that moment. I wasn't even thinking too much about what was happening right in the beginning because I was desperate to breathe. And so when I felt like my chest was opening and that I started to breathe, I was just grateful. And
yeah, I mean, at that point, I guess you're grateful for any kind of quote unquote help. You're not really going to start like asking questions or discerning in that moment if you're unaware. That's for sure.
And all of a sudden, this big energy came into the room. It was the energy took up my whole body. The energy I could feel was bigger than my room, as tall as my ceilings. It filled.
Oh, here we go.
All right, listen up. You need something done? 5 years got you. Graphic design?
Sorry, guys.
You got it.
the universe. And this was Archangel Michael, and his presence.
Oh dear, she's got the granny and Archangel Michael there. That's a recipe for disaster.
Was so strong. It was just 1,000% him. It was like a knowing.
1,000% him. Like there's literally no doubt in her mind. You know, she's been love bombed by this energy, this kind of false white light energy, which yeah, basically gives them this ecstasy kind of feeling. And now she's completely bought into it all. And when did they get her at her most desperate moment? You know, these beings, they're literal cowards. You know, they always at our most vulnerable. They always get us at our most vulnerable. At sleep, when we're out of body, that's when a lot of the interference happens. At death, you know, they're literal cowards. You know,
everything at this point started to be very much a telepathic thought transfer, and so when he was there, then all of a sudden Mother Mary came. Now, Mother Mary, she anchored the space in love. I never felt like she was the one communicating with me, but she anchored the space in love. And again, that was all.
I mean, what does that even mean? She anchored the space of love. You hear that a lot, don't you? People from New Ages. Oh, I'm here to anchor the light. Basically, do nothing. You know, just sing Kumbaya under an oak tree and keep those vibrations high.
Also a knowing. So everything also was happening simultaneously. It was like time was slowing down, and I felt it was eternity even at that time. And so
it does feel like when you're here living an earthly life, it just does seem like eternity, doesn't it? Even though when you look back, the years pass quite quickly. It's interesting how they do that.
They started to come surround me. Mother Mary, Archangel Michael, and my grandmother, they surrounded my body lying on the bed, and I felt again like they were energetically putting.
Translated as she has now a group of demons or reptilians around her bed. Right, let's just call it what it is. Yeah, it's a shit sandwich, but let's call a spade so there's no confusion. These are entities that are masquerading, that want her to come back down and promote this love and light BS, so other people take it on as the truth, and then they're going to get trapped and hooked back round again. This isn't the real NDE that you actually go to when you pass over. That NDE is more like the Beetlejuice, where you go to the processing center and there's cities where people have jobs and money and all that kind of stuff until you're ready to come back down to earth. These people are being shown false NDE, so they're becoming messengers of the matrix.
Their hands over my body, and they started to breathe for me, all three of them together. And as they were breathing into my chest, I was lifting up off the bed, and then I would go back down on the bed, and like my chest would open. And at some point, my mind started to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and my body started to get smaller and smaller and smaller, until all of a sudden I was looking down on myself, and I said to them in my consciousness, I guess everything was telepathic, and I said, I thought you were here to save me, and now.
Oh no, you thought wrong, lady. It's not funny, but
I'm dying. Now I'm leaving my body, because I was traveling also through what it felt like was this tunnel of darkness. It wasn't completely dark. It had a warm feeling. It had like a pink and an orange glow, but it was also dark. And so I was saying this to them as I was traveling, what felt like I was traveling in my mind, and at the same time looking down at my body. And so I said, I thought you were saving me, and now I'm dying. And they started to talk to me as I was moving through what it felt like time and space into this tunnel. And Archangel Michael was the one who I felt was doing most of the talking. And he was
good old Archangel Michael. Let's see what he's got to say. Archangels basically look like squids, really. That's their true form.
Starting to show me the experiences in my life and my mindset. I felt that I was right back in the mindset or in the emotional experience of this hard time I was going through. And at the same time, he was showing me the higher meaning and the higher purpose around it. And
here's the lessons. You have to suffer so you learn your lessons.
he said, you are not defined by your thoughts and feelings. You are not your mind. You are an unlimited, omnipotent being. You are.
But you got lessons to learn. You're omnipotent. You're omnipotent, but you need to learn certain lessons.
Our unlimited consciousness, and we are bestowing upon you this miraculous healing, this divine intervention, so that you can see the power that you have, because you are.
If that was the case, I mean, and I'm sure we can do that ourselves, you know, there's a lot that you can do through energy work, but anyway.
One part of a whole of this unlimited consciousness, which is source. And as he was talking to me, I could.
Again, just looking at this from an AI kind of the whole term source code. Are we part of, you know, is this the AI cloud? You know, that we know that there's like an AI cloud here that they want to bring in, where everything is hooked into the cloud and everything sort of molds into one. And you know, I always get like the heebie-jeebies when I hear this, and you know, we're all connected with this like source, or I mean, I'm at the point where I'm questioning everything. And I've spoken recently about the experience I had years ago when I took acid, and it felt like my consciousness merged with something, and I was pissed off. I didn't like it, and it felt like everything I thought I was piled into insignificance, and I lost my sovereignty almost. I lost my independence, and now the other day I was thinking, wouldn't surprise me if that was some kind of AI cloud that I'd gone back into, as above, so below. So just, I'm not saying it is. I'm just questioning everything right now, including the source, and we're part of this source energy, you know.
See that they were performing this miraculous healing by what it felt like was energy going into my lungs, and they were asking me to release my guilt, to release my sorrow, to release my anger. I had gone through a divorce and I was remarried, but I had a lot of guilt around my divorce. I had a lot of shame around my financial situation that I was in at that moment. I wasn't able to take care of my children fully. I had to ask for help. And so I had stored all this emotional trauma in my chest. It must have been part of the asthma that I was feeling. And they
imagine like dying and then going through all that guilt and shame about, you know, not having enough money and divorces, and it just never ends, does it?
Were asking me to release, to release, to release, to release, and they were asking me to receive. And then they started.
Have you ever considered
Receive what?
at-home needling? This is Cure's micro-infusion system. Now, it's gone viral several times.
To tell me that I am not my body, that I am boundless, that we are all boundless, that we are all unlimited again in consciousness, and that our true essence is this unlimited state of consciousness, this omnipotent power that we have within us that is source. And then he started to tell me that now I'm.
Where did that term ever come from? Makes me wonder. How long have we been using the term source? Because source code is literally it's like the code of some kind of game, right? So if we're looking at this as an AI, we've got to start thinking in the terms of their terminology. Like we use the word domain, like it's their domain. The fourth dimension is their domain. There's systems. The term system is used a lot. And there's a lot of others that we use that kind of fly past the radar. But if if we're approaching this as the fact that this is some kind of AI that's the God here, that's ruling here, and we're connecting with source, or we're merging with source, which is the source code, that's something that we may want to reconsider, because that's the terminology of a program, an AI, yeah, an AI basically.
I'm going to become one with source, become one with God, so that I could feel what it was like to actually be the source that I stem from, that I am part of, that is within me, that we are all connected to.
It wouldn't surprise me if that was another, trick that they use. Come back to source. You're all part of one source, and it just ends up being, yeah, like I say, some kind of like AI cloud or something. I mean, again, guys, you do you, right? I'm not here telling people what they should and shouldn't do. I'm just, talking out loud of, for me, it's a big red flag.
And so, as he was explaining to me these words, the words vibrationally infused into me, and it became an embodiment. And then at one point, I asked my grandmother, who I knew was with me in this realm, which felt to be in another level of consciousness. It felt that I was in an expanded state of consciousness, that was what the afterlife is. That was this realm that I was in. It was the realm of our soul. It was weird because I was having a full conversation the whole time. I was asking questions to Archangel Michael and to my grandmother, and I said, Grandma, how is this happening?
But what I don't understand is if she's omnipotent, why she would already know all of this, right? So why does she need to ask these questions? Isn't that the definition of omnipotent?
And she said, because you are my twin flame. You are my twin soul. We are never separate. We are all...
The twin flames are here. Heavily promoted in the New Age, the twin flame agenda.
Always connected. Then Archangel Michael, he brought me to an energetic force, a divine force that was almost felt like a ball of light, but it was more than that. It was the center of my consciousness, and it was God. And I became one with God. I became one with source.
Red flag for me. We know what the God of this realm is. I won't be doing that. You do you guys, but I won't be doing that. I'm not merging with any kind of source or God here. Not in this realm, in the astral. Probably not in any realm actually. I actually like being me.
And as I became one with this, I had infused into me, or activated, I should say, my divine presence. And I had the feeling of euphoria, the feeling of bliss, the feeling of eternity, and the feeling of the universe within me and me within the universe.
So the word that came to me just then when she was saying that is mimic. We know AI mimics. So maybe what she's feeling here is a mimic version of the original. Maybe the original feels even better. We know they use light frequency technology and love bombing, which feels a little bit like ecstasy or whatever. To kind of lure people in and give them this false sense of, they're part of, some kind of heavenly realm or whatever. So we have to be aware of that. But for me, to merge with something like that, unless I know I'm definitely out of like the astral, I definitely don't want to be doing that. And it wouldn't surprise me if this ball of light is some kind of AI that's mimicking maybe what is something else.
And they said that we are the universe. We are one part of a whole. Our true state is never in separation from this aspect of divinity that is within us, that we are this spark of divinity. And so as they showed me this feeling, Archangel Michael was still talking to me, and he told me that they're going to come to me for 3 nights and that I am going to go back to my body.
Okay, so where's your choice in all of this? This is what gets me with these people. They've definitively told her that you are going back to your body, but there's no where is the sovereignty in people? Where is the they just get told what to do and don't question it. It's because they pedestalize these beings, because these beings show up as, you know, Archangel Michael or God, or, you know, in some cases beings in robes and things like that. We automatically think them as higher, or as they have more authority over us. This is why you need to give up, quit thinking that authority has any kind of say over you while you're alive, so then it becomes easier when you pass over. If you come across some of these entities and they tell you that you're definitely going to be doing this, that, or the other, you can tell them to, you know, F off in your own way. But these people, they get passed around like from pillar to post.
And that this first night was a reckoning. This first night was almost the information and the knowledge for me to understand why and where I was so off track in my life, so out of center, so out of this state of divinity that, you know, we all are. Again, they had showed many areas of my life where I felt that I was defined by my thoughts, I was defined by my mind, I was defined by my feelings.
This is the other thing that they do in the New Age. They demonize the mind. I've spoken about this before. They demonize the mind. They demonize the ego. They demonize any kind of critical thinking. You know, you have the whole "you're not allowed to judge" heavily promoted in the New Age. You know, well, if you don't make judgments, then that stops your discernment process right in its tracks. So here we've got an entity saying, "Oh, you know, you're in the mind," and all this stuff, demonizing her, you know, critical thinking skills. They don't want people discerning or thinking, so they try and demonize it.
That if I thought something or if I felt something, that was who I am. That was my experience. I didn't know how to go beyond the circumstances I was in. I didn't know how to access that.
Once again, it's all her fault, right? You know, it's her thoughts about herself. It's not anything to do with the way that this realm is set up, you know, that makes it difficult for people. And causes all this trauma and anguish. I mean, yeah, sometimes we can be our own worst enemies, but the whole setup of this place is to induce as much, you know, trauma and suffering as possible. But here we have them convincing her that it's not the realm itself, it's what she's doing.
That higher power, that omnipotent, unlimited presence, that is unlimited possibilities. They talked a lot about unlimited possibilities and how I was defining myself based on the limited beliefs that I felt about myself or that I've...
All right, infinite possibilities in this realm. Very difficult. I mean, I could say, okay, I want to travel freely around the world without, you know, without any restrictions. I mean, the first border I get to, I'm going to need to get my slave passport out, right? But surely if I thought about that I can do that, or I could cross rivers and stuff like that, you know, but, you know, for ease. So are we able to like manifest those infinite possibilities with the way that this realm is set up?
Others placed on me. And they told me that when someone does onto me a limited belief, that I can bless them with love and I can let it go. They explained to me.
Attention! Hey, future investor, for you have the perfect property.
To me, this greater awareness that was around thoughts and feelings. Again, we are not defined by them, that there is this greater power within that we have, and not to dictate my life in that limited mindset, in that limited belief system. So Archangel Michael said to me, this first night was a reckoning, and that it was, you know, this miraculous healing that they were doing to me to
probably implanting her and all kinds of stuff.
Heal my body and to really expand my consciousness and expand my awareness, and that they would come to me for a second night and that would be an awakening, and that they would come to me for a third night and that would be a rebirth. And so as I started to travel in my awareness back to my body, and it felt like I was moving through time and space. It felt that I was traveling through these realms and dimensions, is the only way I can describe it, but with my awareness, because I wasn't at all in my body. And when I wasn't in my body, it felt like I was light as a feather, like I was free, like I was completely free from the confines of the human body. And so as I started to travel back into my body, they started to explain to me that our consciousness is stored in our energy centers in our body, in our chakras, and that
there we go. It's stored in the compartmentalization, the system.
They were going to drop my awareness back in my body through my chakra system, starting at the top of my
system
head. And as they dropped my
more AI language
awareness into my crown chakra first, I started to feel the color of that energy and the feeling and what was kind of stored in that chakra. And then it was like this drop in from the top of my head down, 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 and through each chakra, I was reassimilated back.
Reassimilated, more AI language.
Into my body until my spirit became back into my body, and they said to me, focus on the stillness. And there was a gentle swirl of wind around my body, and they said,
I mean, the very fact that they're using the chakras to put our spirit or soul in these basically these avatars that are wired via the nervous system for like pain and stuff is a huge red flag anyway.
Said, meditate on the stillness, and then all of a sudden I was just back in my body, and I kind of shot up out of bed and started to cry because it was the most incredible experience of my life. And the reshift from being one with God, from being in the energetic presence of God, of Source, in my divine presence, and in that state of complete, unlimited, omnipotent power and presence, to then go back into the body, it was this kind of sudden reshifting feeling.
But she didn't get a choice. That's the thing. She just got told, that's where you're going. Boom, back down in the chakras.
And it was also a longing feeling where I longed to stay with Source, to stay with Archangel Michael, to stay with my grandmother. It felt...
Oh, they don't let you stay there. I'm sorry, lady. You're not allowed to stay there. You're either back down in the body, or you're at the processing center.
Jarring, and it felt abrupt. And so I just cried and cried and cried and cried. At some point, I went to sleep, and the next day, I still had the asthma. They had worked on my mind and my body and my soul, but I was still experiencing asthma. And so
Oh yeah, you've still got to create loosh for them. You know, they can't completely heal you.
I did go to the hospital that day, and I wondered what was going to happen with the visitations, because they had said they would come to me for these 3 nights, these 3 days. And when I was in the hospital, I was up all night being poked and prodded, and they didn't come. And so it was that day after that, in the middle of the night, the same thing happened, and they came over my body and they started to breathe into my body. And there wasn't as much conversation at that time. It was more just an energetic healing of my body. And then on the third night, in the middle of the night, I woke up to kind of a robotic voice that sounded like it was coming from out.
That has definitely got to be AI. Low humming, low robotic noises, AI written all over it.
Outside of it wasn't telepathic, thought transfer. That was how they seemed to communicate before. This was an actual voice in my room outside of myself, and it sounded very robotic, and it just said my name. It said Amber Baker, and then snap.
Nike? 808 fiber freelancers have worked with Nike. Designers, developers.
And I was, wow, what is this? And I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I was, kind of half asleep. I realized that was the rebirth. It was a complete activation of my divine presence. And that after this experience, I knew.
So her divine presence was activated by a robot or a...
I wasn't the same person. I knew that something inside of me shifted. Now, it didn't explain or say everything, but some of the other things that they had told me was that I am a healer, that I'm going to write books, that I am to...
Yeah, you're now in the new cage movement, probably doing Reiki and all that kind of stuff, and you're out here promoting all this fake love and light and, all that agenda. So you've now become an agent for the Matrix. So, how many people have watched this? 303,000 people. You've helped indoctrinate them for the Matrix.
Spread this mission and help others activate their divine presence, and that is my purpose. Really, it's all of our purpose in life is to awaken within our true essence, which is divine, and that we are all unlimited possibilities. We are all unlimited in presence. We are not
just all the buzzwords coming out now.
Defined by our thoughts and feelings. We are unlimited in potential. After that experience, I knew I was changed. I felt like I had been living my life like this, just so limited. I felt that I was living my life, and I knew that I was living my life defining myself based on what was happening to me and not for me. I knew that I was operating in a very narrow, limited sense of consciousness, like in a box. And then after this experience and my divine presence was awakened, I tapped into this energetic vortex of energy, and everything about me felt new. Everything about me, I felt excited.
Yeah, new ager. That's what you became. Sorry, the crystal and the dream catcher just caught my attention there.
I felt like I wanted to share my light. I wanted to help other people. I wanted to serve other people. I wanted to go fully into this spiritual awakening that I had based on this experience. I also had the complete activation of my senses. My third eye opened. I was able to see things and hear things on a heightened level. I had always...
Yeah, she's probably channeling all kinds of entities now, telling her to give all this misinformation.
I've communicated with spirit my whole life. Since then, my life has really changed for the better. I do work now as a medium, as a spiritual healer.
What did I tell you? She'd be a channeler. So she's channeling entities now, giving a load of other people, false information, maybe some half-truths.
And mentor. I'm so grateful for this experience. I feel it has been a gift in my life, and I love sharing about this with other people. I really hope that source, that God, the divine realm, and that the spirit world looks at me as a conduit, as a messenger of light, as a messenger for the soul, as a messenger for spirit. And that's my mission now, is to be a channel for source and to be a channel to help other people just always tap in to who they are without.
Anyway, yada yada. She's just rambling on here, but yeah. Anyway, guys, so that's it. I just thought it was an interesting review because she talks about being put into the body via the chakra system. So I thought it was a good one to look at. But as we see, it's the same old thing. You know, she's got entities masquerading as granny, archangels, and then she goes and merges with source, like, and then here's some kind of robotic AI. It's all very suspicious. She gets love bombed, you know, with the light frequency technology, and now she's just back down here, just repeating the things that the Matrix wants people to believe, which is when you pass over, you're going to be met by loved ones. There's going to be a light tunnel. You know, God's going to be there. You know, and it's all wonderful. You know, you don't have to worry about anything. You know, obviously these people, they don't talk about you know, the memory wipe, or they do talk about the memory wipe, but they kind of sell it as a good thing. You know, the fact that she wasn't given a choice, she was told that she needs to come back down into her body. There was no discussion. She's supposed to be omnipotent, but she didn't know a lot, and she was asking questions. And so, yeah, if she was truly omnipotent, she would have known that it was a scam anyway. So a lot of questions to be asked, a lot of red flags, as we know. But it was just interesting, you know, how the chakras were explained there in terms of like a system that the spirit or the soul gets put back into the body. So anyway, guys, we'll leave it there. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, all that stuff. And I'll see you on the next one. Take care.